Council, as the mayor said at the beginning of the meeting tonight, that this is not really a discussion. It's just an update on what the staff has been doing in conjunction with our consultant and a schedule so that we can put as much information out as possible, as soon as possible, as far as when meetings are. So what I had Kaylee do today, because I got to looking at how much has been done, and we sent this to you via email. There's 2 pages of what's been done and a nexus of how we came to this point. And just FYI, council started to talk about this in a council meeting on the 22nd of September. It developed into an agenda bill on the 11th of October to authorize the professional service agreement with Bob Stowe and his company. And when February 7th, we had a workshop, talk about the TIF with Bob Stowe and with his counterpart, Morgan. In March 6th, Bob Stowe reached out to the junior taxing districts and other organizations to set up individual Zoom meetings with them, with all the junior taxing districts, and those were held. I've got a schedule for those as well. And then on the 21st of March, we had a public briefing, and we publicized that everything we always do. For instance, the Lake Chelan Mirror, Bob and I talked about it on Cozy Radio. It's posted on iCompass Facebook, and emailed the notice to a whole bunch of different organizations to make sure we got that out as much as possible here in Chelan. And then we started meeting with some of the junior taxing districts on the 24th, and other organizations. 24th, we met with the state treasurer's office to make sure we had clear guidance on the way forward on the TIF from the state agency that's in charge of this, treasurer's office. Then on the 29th, Bob and city staff met with members of the fire department, and commissioners were invited. And on March 30th, we met with the assessor's office, the libraries, and Chelan County Port District, all separately in different Zoom meetings. And then on April the 7th, we met with the hospital and EMS. And then on April 18th, we had a public briefing, again, published the same as I talked about on the previous public meeting, and that was well attended. Just FYI, on the meeting on the 21st, there was no public attendance to that, just as a data point. And then going back into April, we finally created a page on our website on April 28th, got that up and running with frequently asked questions, and we continue to add to that, by the way. And then on now we're to May 9th, and I'm giving you guys an update. And so now for the future, what we're looking at is tomorrow we'll put notification of the 24th of May special meeting, and just to make sure you guys understand why we had to have a special meeting. From the time we started this and started the schedule and got things going, the legislature passed some modifications to the TIF that said you have to have a 2-week notice of the meeting that we're going to have to consider the TIF district ordinance. And so we didn't have time to do that. And so we had to push that by a day to make sure we got the notifications, because we have a newspaper that's only published, as you all know, once a week. And so that drives a timeline that we could not meet. And so that's why we pushed it to a special meeting on the 24th at 2 o'clock. And so we've published that in the Lake Chelan Mirror, on the city website, on Facebook. We'll talk about it tomorrow on Cozy Radio. We'll post it on our bulletin board. We'll, of course, put it on our website as well, and do the other notifications we normally do. On May 18th, we have sent invites out today to meet with no more than 2 representatives from each of the junior taxing districts. So we'd like to have a very good discussion with the taxing districts again, because during all this time, especially in the last couple of weeks, myself and John Ajax and other staff have met with our consultant, Bob Stowe, and his counterpart, Morgan, to get a better understanding. And they have done a very, very deep dive into the TIF, more so than they've done with any other municipality. They've done 6 of these, and this is the first time they've gotten pushback. So hats off to you guys for pushing back and asking for more information. I've got to hand it to you. That's good, because it forced our consultant and us to really deep dive into it and make sure the council had all information that's needed, and you guys do too. So on the 18th, we'll be doing that meeting. And then, of course, followed by May 24th, the special council meeting council will consider, again, not committing funds or doing a bond or anything else, just forming the tax district so it goes into effect on 1 June. So that anything that happens after 1 June of this year will be part of the TIF district. So that vote on the 24th, again, will only be to establish the district, not commit any funds, not to make any kind of a bond issue, anything else. So that's going forward. Council, questions?
I think some of the council members are getting questions from the public. At least I know a couple of us are, that regarding the accounting of the funds received from the TIF and how any excess works.
Yeah, and that's
Could
a
you
lot of
make
that.
a few comments on that?
Any excess? You mean excess?
If funds are funds beyond the bond payments are received, what happens to those?
I believe those go back to the junior taxing districts. John, that's correct. Yeah, I thought so. I'm looking at John because we've been in this together, and every time we listen to this, we get a better understanding. So yes, it goes back to the junior taxing districts.
Thank you.
And John, did I miss anything in my synopsis there? Okay, thanks.
So to confirm, in creating the tax increment area proposal on the 24th, anything after June 1, would that then start the property tax allocation regardless of whether or not we are issuing bonds?
I believe so. John?
That is correct. So 2023, if approved, the tax allocation, the following year, the base year would be established. So 2023, any increment in existing assessed value would be attributed to the city, and we would hold on to those funds until such time as we know what the actual debt issuance would be.
And so, yeah, just to be clear, if we don't ever issue debt, those funds then go back to the junior taxing districts. It's whatever allocation they were supposed to have.
Don't we have like a 5-year time frame to issue bonds?
We do. We have a 5-year time frame.
And then if we don't issue any debt to be repaid, then those property tax revenues go back to the junior taxing
district, and the TIF goes away.
Okay, thank you.
In relation to my previous comment, could you make comment on the auditing process that occurs over these funds?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would assume that the state treasurer's office will be auditing that very closely because this is still a relatively new concept. So, John, I don't remember having that discussion with Bob, but I would assume that would be the case. Just like the state audits everything else we do.
I see Jackie nodding her head back there.
Yeah, Jack. I should have asked Jackie. She's the expert on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's somewhat urgency in this as we looked over the last few years. It's like every year, everything goes up 10%. And if we don't make the June deadline this year, then we can probably anticipate another significant increase from inflation. So I would hope that we can get this sorted out and move forward.
And that's all I have on
All you have?
Unless there's
Alrighty,
no questions from council, that's it.
We're going to move on to destination development proposed presentation. You want to take the lead on that, Wade? Or you want me to?
I could take the lead on it if you like. For as long as I've been working for the mayor, he's talked about an organization called Destination Development, which is an organization led by a guy named Roger Brooks, who has become over the last 20 years or so an expert. One of his shining examples, I think, was Ocean Shores.
Ocean Shores, from being a cesspool to being what it is today with innovations. He's worldwide known. He's currently working on Moses Lake, and if he can't make Moses Lake a sunny spot in the Highway 90, he's a miracle worker. He also was involved with Whistler, BC, and their lack of any activities outside of the ski time. And with some research, it became the biggest downhill bicycle area in the North America. So he has done a lot of these. To give you a little bit of feedback on the Wayback Machine, in the late 90s, I attended a presentation in Spokane with AWC, and I asked him after the meeting what it would cost to come to Chelan, and he says, I have a condo in Manson. What's wrong with Chelan? Well, believe it or not, in those years, our sales tax were dropping. So he said, because you ask, I'll do it for free when I have an open date. And he doesn't have to make an open date, but he did in January the following year. He gave a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce's monthly luncheon. Very well attended. It's extremely good. He's written several books. He has a fantastic library on branding, public announcements, signage, promotions, the whole thing. Recently, I wrote a check for $120 to the Downtown Association so that they could be part of that library and understand what the bigger picture is. He's done the 10 best places to visit in Canada, the 10 best in Washington. Leavenworth is actually on one of his 10 best for the United States. We had a presentation on one of the public service announcements for Chelan. It had a couple pictures of the lake and some other things. So what we're trying to do here is get kind of a reevaluation of what tourism is. I've had conversations with Steve Erickson from the Chamber of Wenatchee, the mayor of Cashmere once again. I think it's a regional thing to set and understand what tourism has become, not what it appears to be, but truly how you make it work best. So we're looking at trying to get him there in September 6th. It's an ongoing deal, trying to catch a date. We had May 25th. That filled rather quickly. So we're out September. It'll give us enough time to look for other people involved in putting this on so we can make the best presentation that what's available.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the mayor said. So what the purpose of the talk tonight, what we're talking about with council, is to see if there's some interest. If so, we'll bring an agenda bill that says we will, we'll see what kind of funding we can get from other sources, but it'll be somewhere between, up to $6,000 because it's valuable. Like I said, the mayor's been researching this for a long time. Anyway, that was the purpose tonight. So we'll get more information to follow to move forward, and just expect at some point an agenda bill. It's I don't know if Bob mentioned this, but right now we've got him scheduled for September 6th. FYI.
Wade, is there any reason we couldn't use lodging tax funds for this?
That's probably what Jackie and I talked about this already. We believe we can definitely use lodging tax funds since this is a tourist activity.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd accept the motion.
There's no motion. That was just information only.
Oh, just information. Okay.
Yes.
Got that. With that being said, we're through with the information that's available. We'll move on to mayor council comments, and we'll start on the far right. Aaron, what's up?
Okay, so Bob's agenda items kind of sparked something that I had started working on back in January when we were having discussions around our chamber funding and looking at our contract for the year and what we will be doing at the end of this year. So similar to what Bob's presentation with destination development, I had participated in a rural tourism workshop that was, I think, 6 workshops, and it was in Twisp here. And then one other community, small community, and it was put on by the Washington State Tourism Department, and they were working with a company called Cross Current Collective. And I asked them I was very impressed with their what they were able to pull together. And the impetus was on this. We've brought it up once or twice, but tourism in Chelan is, in my opinion, around the area of economic development, and similar to all the other departments that we have, water, parks, planning, we have long range plans. In the area of economic development, we do not have a long range plan, and similar to unfettered and unplanned growth will overtake your city, just as tourism without a plan will also overtake your city. So this might be slightly different than what Bob had on the agenda, but this organization specializes in working with communities, both from an economic development perspective, but also with the citizens that live in that community to also have buy-in to what that overall tourism long-range strategy is. So this is just for your reading pleasure, but I asked them to put together what a proposal might look like in working with Chelan so that we can sit in the driver's seat for how we want to have tourism taking place in our area, bringing in conversation with the community. Bob and I have talked about sports tourism for years. If that's an area that we see on the docket for something that we want to investigate and invest in, that would be something that would be part of a long range plan or a long range strategy. excuse me. So take a look and read through this. I would really like to have, when we get to the end of the year, we're not jumping into talking about what our next year's actions are in a 1 week period, that we actually have some data and we have feedback and we have a plan for how we want to move forward next year. Because our contract with the Lake Chelan Chamber of Commerce is for a year, but I don't want to spend 2 weeks of our budgeting session fighting around funding. We need to have a strategy, we need to have a plan, and this is just one possible way that we could go about doing that. So that's your destination strategy. The other document that you have is Our Valley, Our Future. So John Ajax and I have chatted with Steve. He's the executive director for OVOF. And I've talked about this many times, but I just printed off the first 5 pages of their massive report, which you should go to their website. There's so much information there. There's so many reports, and there's different groups that are actively working on a lot of the core issues that I think are very similar to what we want to see in Chelan. So he's coming to speak at our June workshop, and there will be a recommendation or an ask from me coming from that as we enter into upgrading our comp plan, that we spend some time digging into our community, which we haven't done in a long time, and gathering feedback and information from our community. When I moved here nearly 20 years ago, it's very different today than it was 20 years ago. Most of you that have lived here for your whole life, it's a very different community. So there's different groups of people that live in Chelan. We all need to kind of come to the table. My desire would be that we could walk away with, on page 5, you'll see there's core values. And if we can identify what our top core values are from all the various community sections that we have, this would be a huge win and a great piece of way to drive the direction of our comp plan updates that are going to be happening over the next couple of years. So I think the June, having Steve come and talk about what they've done and ways that we can jump in and get active right now at the June workshop will be a great way to kind of kickstart, again, some long range planning for Chelan. That's all I got.
That's all.
Chris?
I just want to thank everybody for participating in the process, and I would encourage anybody to run for city council if you're willing. Thank you.
Oh, you stole my thunder. I was going to say thanks for everybody showing up. It's wonderful to see everybody involved in their community. And we love to hear what you have to say, because it's not about what we like, it's what our community really feels. And thanks, Aaron, for this document, this action plan. And I was thinking about these core values, and we're a destination, but we're also full-time residents, and these are like the right and left hand of Chelan. And why do people come here? It's the small town feel, the quality of life, the natural environment, the mountains, the lakes. And this is the thing that we're basically attracts everybody, and we need to preserve that and continue to have coordinated growth to preserve that our core values. And those were the 3 that I thought jumped out at me. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron, for bringing this forward. Ironically, I participated in the founding of I wasn't one of the founders, but I participated in the launching of the Our Valley, Our Future back in the early teens. We went to the business district at the Lookout launch the other day, and it was quite a program. Pretty shocking of what's going to be happening there. I appreciated Ray Dobbs was very concerned about this, and he and I had been in touch, and I directed him to talk to John Ajax, and he sent some 129 pages of documents down to Ray, and Ray then forwarded them to me. And there in the early 1990 documents are the statement of a business district and out there. So That seems to be a done deal. The thing that was shocking was that during that presentation out there, Bob was there, and I don't know if anybody else was there or not. Someone in the crowd during their Q&A asked, what provisions are you making for workforce housing for all the employees you have out here? And the answer was none. Next question. And that was a little disturbing, but so we'll see what happens there. One of the things that I find interesting is that I through circumstances, have lunch at least 4 times a week with Bob, and great wisdom and institutional knowledge there. Most of the lunches go along okay, but not always. We have very interesting discussion, and our table has been the premier table to get at the senior center for lunch. You got to get there early if you want to be at the fist fight. I've been trying to participate in the Roger Brooks program. I haven't been able to get online with them, but so I'm looking forward to that. Also, as your liaison representative, I'm attending the revitalization downtown meetings, and we had Public Works this morning, and it was a very, very good discussion. They ran through Public Works, emergency, the chamber, a whole bunch of different of the service providers in town during that meeting. It was a full day event. I was just there for an hour. Jake was there for an hour, but I learned a great deal. As far as growth goes, one of the things I always try to remind people is that when I was a child here, Lakeside was a separate town. In fact, I was born in Lakeside, and their city hall, they have their own city hall, their own post office, their own police department, and own parks department. It was a pretty interesting place. And at those days, the Les Schwab was the east city limits of Chelan, and the Darnells was the North Shore city limits, and Peterson's was the south side city limits. So a lot of things have happened over the years. I'm very pleased to be back home, though. I spent most of my business years in Tacoma, and now every night when I turn on the TV, it seems to be gunfire and mayhem, and I keep holding my breath that we can avoid something like that happening here. We go back to growth. There's 2 schools of thought about growth. If you build it, they will come. We recognize that as a line from Field of Dreams. There's another line that goes with growth, and that is you better build the damn thing because they're already here. And there's no way to stop growth. So you just try to work with it as best you can. Thank you.
Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd just like to say I've been around a few public works departments in my public life, and I think the one we have here is the best that I've seen. And it's a testament to Jake and the guys that work, and men and women that work for him. Great organization. The other thing is I'm the father of 5 wonderful daughters, highly successful and great mothers. And it wouldn't have been wouldn't have turned out that way without them having a great mother. And this is a reminder that Sunday is Mother's Day, so you don't forget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Tim?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up. We have a big crowd here, and we have an election coming up, and I know the council has deliberated. I think there was a consensus. Go ahead and bump up the pay for the next mayor. Council gets a decent stipend, but I want to make sure that we have candidates, and that nobody feels that they can't run because they just can't afford it. We got a lot of talented people in this town, and I think especially with our system, if the more the merrier up until the primary, we can get some good discussions going on who has the best skill set for that job. So just kind of a reminder that we're looking at that. And I did want to I wanted to thank staff for making room for some more informational meetings on the TIF. It's obviously, I think it's much needed infrastructure. I think most of us agree on that as to how we go about getting that built and where it sits in the priorities. of our budgeting or our bonding capacity going forward. So it'll probably present us with some opportunity costs, when we look at some of the other things we want to do to accommodate what's going on here in town. Thing about what to do about the old bridge into town. Discussions about the community ball fields. There's a lot of need, and we just need to be really careful about how we go forward spending money, and especially borrowing money. So good to see all these folks here tonight participating in that decision, and hopefully whatever decision we make, we can bring at least a bunch of them along with us. So thanks for making that happen.
Sherry?
You guys said everything I wanted to say, but I love seeing everybody here. It is so important that you stay involved with what's going on. If this is our community. Thanks again to staff on top of your enormous workload. All the hours you've put in for the TIF is outstanding. And there's been so much to learn and aspects of it to grasp onto when we are asked on the sidewalk or at the grocery store or emailed and phone calls. It's so important. So I really thank you guys. And thank you, Aaron, for all this information. I look forward to digging into that.
About 8 of our staff members and myself went to Yakima to attend the Labor Institute, and that's basically an update on how the new labor laws work. And it's a thing where you need very cautious when you're dealing with HR this day and age. It's very critical on how everything is done. Everything is done in line. I appreciate them taking the time to go down there. There was a tremendous amount of classes that were well adapted. Some of the scenarios that came through from National Labor Relations Board never cease to amaze me how they can come up with an answer they do. So I'm glad they went. I came home early Friday and I had a Zoom meeting with the mayors of the 12th district with Representative Schreier. We do that about every 3 months on Zoom. It's well attended. And then I'll be on Thursday. I have a Chelan Douglas County Traffic Council, and we're discussing the possibility of a trail system here in the county, particularly from Chelan to Manson. Jake's going to attend that with me and see what that turns up. And then on that afternoon, Richard Durock, who's been CEO for Link Transit for 20 some years, is retiring in August, and they're having a presentation with his candidates for that. And then I would like to encourage the council to attend the Association of Wasted Cities annual conference in Spokane in June. I've been on the board of directors for 10 years. I'll be rerunning for that position this year. And then as we was talking about what's happening, one of our staffs found the 1960 comp plan for the city of Chelan, and it's a really interesting read on where we were and where we're at. So that's on our website. It's interesting to do. And as far as Jake and his team going, I don't know how many people realize that his public works team takes care of a lot of things throughout the valley, all the wastewater, all the water up the South Shore. So there's a tremendous amount of effort beyond the city. I'd like to thank them for doing that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Wade.
Okay, start with the staff. Jake?
I appreciate the kind words regarding Public Works Department. I think everybody here knows I'm just a spoke in that wheel of many others that really make things happen. I feel like we have a really tremendous staff right now. And for instance, I was just thinking, I don't know if you all know, but we'll be acknowledging Randy Baker's retirement at our next council meeting. 37 years of service. Those are the type of people that we've been able to garner institutional knowledge. They're the people that serve our community and have for their entire careers. So just a really good group of folks. He's just one of many, but we have a lot of good people. I think we can be really proud to call city employees. Couple other things. Just a reminder that Free Brush Day is coming up this year on May 20th. It'll be from, just had a PDF pulled up here. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just a typical up to 20 yard, kind of intended to create some defensible fire space around your house and spring cleanup. The partners on that project, as far as funding the tipping fees, will be Cascadia Conservation District, Chelan County, and the city of Chelan. So if maybe get the word out to your constituents. I know there'll be a little bit of advertisement going on the radio tomorrow, I believe, for that, but just a heads up. Also, You may have noticed it's the start of construction season. So we have just recently Pipkin mobilized in here downtown on Markison and Nixon. And we'll be working through the middle of late June, installing new water line infrastructure for the city. So anyways, there'll be some disruption, but hopefully not too much, as it's primarily just residential traffic in that area. But we'll be working with those residents on issues regarding access, water outages, those kind of things. But that's happening. We have a lot of other projects in queue as well, but just wanted to note that one since it's a recent mobilization and maybe you've been getting questions from people in the community. Also, we had a conversation, if you recall, we've been working on various intersection studies with some state funding we received, as well as a geometric design approval for a roundabout for the intersection of Wood and Saunders. Just a very preliminary step in the process of when and if a project may ever happen there, but something the state was willing to fund us and check a box off a list of things to do if that becomes the selected control. We've recently, that council meeting, we were tasked with talking to key stakeholders and just getting some general input this spring. So we've met with like Chelan Fruit, for instance, trying to get an idea of how that works with their vehicular traffic, their truck during harvest. Met with the school district today. We'll be at the Chelan Farmers Market tomorrow. Just FYI, we're in the middle of a little bit of an outreach effort before that process closes up. And I think you probably also seen it's not necessarily worth noting, but just FYI, it's springtime, so we're in road preservation mode. We're crack sealing, we're striping, we're sweeping, it's about to start weed abatement. All those kind of tasks hit. So you'll see some temporary road closures, some flagging likely, some minor disruptions, but all spring tasks we're working to get accomplished. So anyways, so.
Thanks, Jake. Paul?
Right. Yes. Council, within the month or two, we'll bring before you a grant from the RCO for planning for the park system for $86,000. That will require zero match. So we'll begin that process again. And we've gotten some good information from the first efforts that were undertaken, and we'll continue that and continue to get public input into what people want for the park system and allow us to plan for the future strategically and get those projects into the CIP and have a great park system. Also, we have a Rotary playground piece that has been donated, and we'll get that before you next opportunity. And so that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Jackie? Don?
As the son of a public works director, I would also like to reiterate that I wholeheartedly enjoy working with our public works department. They are absolutely top-notch professional in every regard, and I couldn't do my job without them. So thank you, Jake and crew. That's all.
Quentin? Haley?
No.
So you might have noticed Perry's missing tonight. She's on a well-deserved vacation. And so we have the Kaylee and Callie show, and they've been doing a great job putting this together. So I appreciate all the work they've been doing to fill in behind Perry. A couple of things. First of all, Memorial Day is coming up, as we all know, very shortly. We had a discussion this morning with Rob, and Rob, I'd like you to get up and talk about, what y'all's plans are on the water and the roads for Memorial Day, please. Again, one thing to add, we looked at what we were doing. It's pretty much the same we've been doing the last couple of years, but a couple of little enhancements that Rob's going to talk about. So,
yeah, so the sheriff's office is excited to start off the summer boating season with Memorial Weekend coming up. Historically, I'd say the last 10 years, the calls for service have declined each year. I don't have the exact stats. I know 10 years ago, I had put out over about 74 overtime shifts. Last year, I know there were, I think, 37 overtime shifts that were put out. This year, we're putting out 27 overtime shifts. It's just, we have busier weekends in the summertime anymore than what we have for Memorial Weekend. We will have 2 boats on the water. Our Marine Patrol is up and running. I was out on the water this weekend for the hydros. All the boats have been serviced, ready to go. We have 5 deputies that are going to Marine Patrol training. 2 of them are over there right now. 1 has already gone, and 2 will be going the week before Memorial Weekend. So we are ready. We're prepared. We're hoping that it's going to be great weather and a lot of people in town having fun and respecting the city. So, questions on that?
For your
Thank you.
weekend.
We will.
Thanks. And then as far as parking and stuff along 97A, we'll be putting out the cones again and some other stuff to help restrict that parking and do stuff for safety as much as we can along the state highway. And we'll be also talking about giving out tickets and towing and everything else as we've done in the past with a little more enforcement. So thanks, Rob and the Chelan County Sheriff's Department. Something that we work on I say we, Jackie actually does the work, but we help by participating. And that's something called the Association of Washington Cities Well City Award. And it's by participation of our employees doing various activities that Jackie helps plan and put together. We're going to pass that torch soon, I think, because Jackie's got her hands full with finance director duties. But because we get the Well City Award, we get a 2% discount on our medical premiums through AWC, which saves the city and the taxpayers money. So it's a pretty big deal. And we've had it for how many years in a row now, Jackie? Do you know? 2003? 15. So 2015, probably since Jackie took it over, I would imagine. No, she says no. 2015. So hats off to Jackie and the folks who participate in that program. Echo what the mayor said about the Labor Relations Institute. Just so you know that the reason I had a lot of staff go to it, I've been going to it for a number of years since I've been in this business, in the city management business, because the towns I've been managing, I was, except for one, a fellow in here. I was also sort of mostly in charge of HR. And of course, I didn't know that much about HR. So I started going to these because the big reason is to give an awareness of issues and awareness of who to talk to when we have problems. Also awareness that you shouldn't pretend to be an HR officer if you hadn't had training and you go to somebody to talk about it. So I've been going to it. And last year I took Jackie with, and we discussed it and said, we've got some new people in management positions. We've got people who need this information. So we took most of our folks with, and yes, it costs the city some money, but the idea is to save money by not getting sued for something we did wrong. So it was very successful, a good, with little less than, a full day and 2 half days. So it was a good program and worth the effort. And it's one thing I forgot to mention on the meeting on the 18th. Our plan was to have only 3 council members, so we didn't have an official council meeting. But as I sat here and thought about it, if more than 3, and I'll be calling the people I think would like to be there. But if you want to come and be part of that, let me know. So if we have more than 3, we can put the notice out that there'll be, more than 3 council members will have a quorum. So I think that's all I have, Mayor.
I have a question for Wade. There seems, and for Officer Huddleston, there seems to be a flurry of cars with for sale signs along our roadsides.
I'll speak for Rob. They
got orange. They got orange tickets today.
They were putting out notifications. We started that a couple of weeks ago. I put it on the radio, and I think it was an advertisement. It must have been for people to park there. When I came back into town on Sunday afternoon, there were 5 cars there. But Sergeant Huddleston and his folks are going to be on top of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
That being said, I will recess the city council meeting, open the airport board meeting, and accept a motion for the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Any comments from the airport manager?
Just that continue to monitor the traffic system that we have out there to monitor, and the traffic is ticking up. For April, there was 537 movements, and already in May, there's been nearly 100. So a lot of activity out there, which will prove our point that we need improvements. all I have.
That being said, I'll close the airport board, reopen the city council meeting and accept the motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We're out of here. Thank you for coming.